Indeed, you well out, but we right here, we right back. But they say people lined up to see the Titanic sinking instead of roll from the ash like a phoenix. That's my way of saying I am tired as I can be. You see me, I substituted the curse word. I told you I was working on that. But I don't know why I'm so tired because this is literally the earliest I've recorded an episode. I believe.
Yeah, I think it's it. I think it's,
It's definitely the earliest I recorded an episode somehow, some way. Yeah, listen, man, conditioning the routine's what I say. Even if the routine probably ain't better for you, somehow, some way, when you adjust to recording late, it's crazy. That's why I said break them routines because
in the morning was perfect.
You fall into the fucked up pattern can become the thing that you kind of think that you perform optimally, and it's just like, nah, you gotta work on breaking them habits. Welcome back. We back. We bike, as I would say, as the great philosopher Plies once quoted. Thought You Should Know podcast, Deeq, episode 4. And we gonna get right into it. We gonna get right into it. Because I think a lot of what we covered last week will have you, touch on a lot of, self-reflection, being critical of self, evaluating self before others kind of have to give you their evaluation, because people are naturally going to evaluate you, right? It's not really that natural, I don't think, to evaluate yourself critically. But in that same regard, even if we're going to be super critical of other people, right? If you're really concerned, because you ain't coming to nobody who you don't really bang with and kind of giving them your criticisms. You know what I mean? Not really. It's no point of it. You're judging it from afar. And usually it's like you're using those, you're constantly still evaluating that person to justify in your head why you don't bang with them. And for people who are up on a Philly dialect, why you just don't have a relationship with that person and choose not to. You know what I mean? But in that same vein, we got to give people a little more grace too. Because especially if you're not a person with thick skin, if you want that grace in return, you got to give it. So, before you jump out the window and blow up to tell somebody how they just ain't up to snuff on something, think about how you wording that before you blow that thing up. Now, in fairness, your goal might be to blow that thing up.
Sure.
And even in that case, right, it's still a tricky thing to navigate because, all right, I have been in a lot of different situations where I have tried things in a group dynamic, right? And more of them failed than succeeded. As far as the actual goal of why we came together failed. Now, a lot of these things led to, there was a lot of branches that came off of that tree. So I'm happy that the tree grew because a lot of the people who I was in past situations with prospered after as a direct result of the thing that we tried to do that failed. You know what I mean? So when you look at it that way, it could be a situation where it's just like your legitimate thought could be fuck this person, but you don't know. You might. It's scary to say. You might end up needing that motherfucker.
I mean, but isn't that like textbook growing pains? It's literally like, so growing at different rates, right?
Right.
So you're already at that point, and you're like, all right, here's what's going on, and it's like they're just not responding. So you're like, fuck that person. And then later on, like as things start to catch up, but it takes that fuck that person for them to actually grow in that space.
Or actually saying fuck this thing because you don't want to say fuck that person.
Right.
So you will say fuck the thing in order to salvage the relationship with the person. And it's, like I said, it comes, and it's twofold because I've been in situations with people who, for lack of a better term, I had a falling out with. I'm just saying falling out with because I guess is the easiest way for me to sum it up. When it wasn't really a falling out, the thing just didn't work out. And we just went on and tried to exist along the lines that we existed in before we tried said thing. But there's been situations where that person, and I'm talking about in that person, I tried to save the relationship by way of deading that thing because they just were fucking up. You know what I mean? And it ended up in situations where I've ended up in rooms where, it wouldn't have been beneficial to them if I laid out how I really felt in the time when I blew the thing up, right? That's about That's about as PC as I can be with it, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going out of my way to give a glowing endorsement, but I'm also not giving them the real, like, yo, this would be a horrible fucking thing for you to, like, kind of embark on with said person.
I know. Yeah.
So it's that culture currency. That shit is there because just the honest truth with somebody who really, really, really carrying it on integrity, and the people who carry it on integrity are usually the people who are in these rooms who people are asking about other people because they know they're gonna give the real. The person, all right, what was I getting? It's just you don't want that person to be the person that has to be either your spokesman. You want that person to be your spokesman. You do not want that to be the person who got to give the critical deep dive of why a person shouldn't fuck with you. And I'm talking about not by way of this some petty shit. I'm talking about they legitimately know, all right, this person and you try to start a landscaping business. Mm-hmm. They know for a fact in the landscaping business, and I did a lot of prior to like the pandemic and stuff. I hadn't really worked in Philly in like the last decade. I worked along the main line. So I'm leaving out. I'm riding through the main line for the better part of the last 10 years, 6 in the morning, between the window of 6 in the morning and 8 a.m. And you see them out there. Landscapers get to it early. So circling back, you know this person is never on time. You know this person is a do just enough to say something was passable. Even when it's their project, I'm doing enough to do. Listen, what they say, you got straight C's, they that person that responds to it, I straight passed. They're that person. You gonna give a glowing endorsement for that person with somebody who you respect. I go back to last week. Like I said, I know for a fact that I burnt out relationships with certain people who were beneficial to have in my life by way of recommending somebody to them that wasn't ready. And my word, that person being ready fucked up their relationship, but what fucked up me and the other person's relationship was me giving my word back in this person because, you know, naturally, I mean, essentially, when you're saying when you give an endorsement to somebody, a true endorsement to somebody, that when the person's asking you and they trust you by way of you thoroughly doing what you do, that if you could do this thing that they needed done, the person you're recommending will do it on the level that this person thinks you do everything else well on.
So I think that comes down to the difference between when you're in a situation, right?
Right.
And you have a high standard for yourself, right?
Right.
And you're trying to help someone out. When do you say, I'm not even going to do this? You know, I'm not going to recommend this person because I know my standards are higher than that person, so you can't even put them in the game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can't even do it.
But then when you get to thinking about it on that level, and I think I was in the time period that, you know, we had some things that didn't go where we wanted them to go based on me being me and kind of how I operate and the standard I hold myself to. I took myself out of a lot of rooms I didn't need to take myself out on because I didn't want them asking me about it. And that becomes a thing too, because now you're hiding from the failure instead of evaluating again why this was a failure and now what not to do next time.
So I'll take it a step further. Would you consider that to be a form of self-sabotage?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, when situations didn't work out. So from 2012 to from 2009 to 2010, I stopped working, got a camera, started getting to it, right? Won't say what I was making, but I was making enough not to work for nobody. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that at 20, 21. And it was seeing the results I wanted to see. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have necessarily an expectation because I didn't have nobody as the bar for that. I was my experience in that, and I was navigating through it. So certain things occurred that derailed that, lost everything. And what did I do? Rather than trying to circle the wagons and figure out, all right, use some of the social capital that I had. I knew people who tried it and failed who still had cameras and things like that. I could have circled back. I could have got another camera. It wouldn't have been the quality of the one I had right then and there, but I could have did 3 or 4 jobs and got a better camera than the one I had It improved on my equipment and therefore improving on the finishing product. And I didn't. I just was so fucking scorned by it. I said, fuck it. And I went black. I went dark. Like, went dark. Literally, there were people from that time of my life when sad thing happened in 2010 who I probably didn't see until about 2015. Yeah. By way of me just ghosting the scene. Right. You know what I'm saying? So who knows? Because I see a lot of people who I was on the ground floor with at that time who are rich now. Point blank period. They're rich. And I'm talking about at that time, they weren't even good.
No. They weren't good. And the one thing I will say that you always had was access.
Yes.
I mean, because like it was like, all right, so what does Deeq do? It's like, well, Deeq did a whole lot of behind the scenes grunt work, right?
It still becomes that now.
I know. It's still the same thing. But I mean, like, in terms of like, how was Deeq getting in here with these cameras? It's like, because the work was already done.
Yeah.
Like, the relationships were already built.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I was at, it's wild when I think about it right now on his face. Meek's first album tour, the Dreams and Nightmares concert at the TLA. Mm-hmm. Somehow, some way, I was on stage with my camera. On stage with my camera. And in younger Meek's career fashion, it was like 800 niggas like in the periphery, and I tried to dip off to the side, and one of them knocked the camera out my hand. Yeah. But I'm just like, dog. But people like, how? It wasn't about the fact that I had the camera, which at that time, people wanted that too. Don't get me wrong. The same way people be wanting them clips now that they don't want to pay people for it too. They're snatching people's photography and their videography and throwing it up on their page and not giving people their credit. Pay artists for their work. Pay people for their work, first and foremost, let alone artists. But, because they are an artist too. They might not be the rapper, but, you know what I'm saying? But circling the wagon back to that, it's the same thing now. I had a person ask me a week ago. Shout out to my bro. Shout out to DJ A Boogie. So him and I and his wife and another homie, we went to the Sixers game 2 weeks ago. Compliments of him and Team Hennessy Philly. And somebody like a week later randomly asked me, why would I be the person that gets, why was I that? Like, I don't remember exactly how they phrased the question, but they basically asked me, like, why the fuck was I invited to that? Like, what tapped you in on that? And I'm like,
been tapped.
I've been tapped in. That's my bro. Like, the person that just happened to fall into the role as the Philadelphia ambassador for Hennessy is my guy. 10 years plus. Tapped in on a different level. Like, I'm talking about at a time where me and him talking about it last week once again. Like, we remember we talking about the sneaker. We talking about the days before sneaker lap and the sneakers raffles and stuff. How we was just pulling up, jumping the line, getting what we want. Because guess what? We was tapped in then. We didn't have to wait in that line. There were certain things we did. I ain't about to big dog it like that. But that's that culture currency I'm talking about. That social capital can get you into places. I have been in a lot of rooms that people tried to pay to get into that I know personally that I was in for free. Mm-hmm. And just by way of being with somebody and they know, even if Deeq not offering nothing to the situation other than having a guy that I know got my back and is comfortable and is still around me and ain't gonna embarrass me in here. And I'd rather him be here soaking up this game than somebody that's going to pay me, who has to pay me just to be in here for this one-time information because they want to infiltrate. Thanks. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to infiltrate. You know what I mean? I've been in a lot of situations, like I said, where I went to meetings with people, and after the meeting, the person who had the meeting with said, "How can I work with him?"
I mean, that's every meeting. If I'm being honest.
But that's why I stopped going.
I've been in meetings, I've been in places with you. That's literally every.
But in fairness to certain people, that's why I stopped operating in that space too, where I was kind of on the background side. I guess nowadays people call them road managers and different things like that for certain people. I stopped because at the end of the day, I'm rocking with certain people out of love, and I'm literally just doing it out of love. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it comes down to, at the end of the day, this was one of my talking points that I erased for this episode, but I go, it brought me back to it anyway, so I guess it was meant to be there. I am not the person who ever encourages people to give up game that ain't theirs. It's not where it's at. It's not thorough, because you gonna lay out this blueprint of somebody else's shit. And then guess what? Because you laid it out so crazy, remixing somebody else's shit, somebody might call you to the carpet and say, I got this bread for you. I got this opportunity for you. And you can't even do it. So now you running a rat race now because you scrambling, trying to use the bread that they gave you in order to contract other people to get the work done. And now you're trying to piecemeal shit together and it ain't working. Well, it ain't working in a timely enough manner for the fashion. It's not working in a timely enough manner turnaround wise for the person who paid you and for the amount that they paid you. I've been there too. I've been there too. And guess what? When that person paid you, they don't care that this engineer ain't available, that you on his time. They don't care that this videographer ain't there on time because it's on you. I paid you. This is your production now. Yep. I'm executive producing this shit. I gave you the bread to get it done. I gave you the resources. Now, you told me you were the resource that could get this done. It ain't on nobody but you. You can't pass the buck. You know what I'm saying? When you overseeing, that's why it's a big responsibility to do things outside of doing them on your own. And unfortunately, well, not even unfortunately, it's just the reality of it. Sometimes doing shit on your own won't be optimal. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it will. But when you know that it's going to be, it's a lot of moving pieces to shit. It's a lot of moving pieces to this podcast. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them. But what comes out to the fan and what comes out to the supporter, I ain't even going to say the fan, is the finished product. Mm-hmm. It's out. You got to hit play. That's it. It's out on multiple platforms. So you don't even got to pay. I don't pay a subscription for this one, but yeah, it's out on this one for free. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing, don't outkick your coverage, man. Don't outkick your coverage. It's a sports reference, so a lot of people don't get it. So guys probably will understand, or women who really are into the X's and O's of football understand. That quote is, all right, so you got a punt team, you got a kickoff team. In both of those cases, you are trying to pin the other team back as far as possible by kicking it. But not only are they just kicking it, they could kick it further than what they do, right? But what they don't do is they don't kick it on a straight line to kick it as far as they can, because the people who have to go down there and recover the kick that they put out that are on their team can't get down there that fast. So what they do is they kick the ball higher so that it has what's called hang time, and it gives their team the time to catch up to the ball in order to either recover it or stop somebody else from advancing it. Mm-hmm. So it's not out kicking your coverage. It's just, step by step this thing. Don't skip these steps. You know what I mean? It's so many people who try and get from A to Z by skipping B through Y. And it's like, for what? It's people that are looking for shortcuts to get to places they ain't never been. How you by way of, you don't even develop a shortcut just using real life application to places, talking about literal shortcuts and places that roads that have to be traveled. You weren't even able to concoct a shortcut until you know multiple ways of how to get to somewhere the real way. Major keys. You had to know that this alley was right there by way of going the right way first. Right. In order to say, I can do this now to shave off a block. Right. But you had to be there first. And that's a thing. That's one thing I'm loving about the cycling journey, right? I can't take any shortcuts, but I'm not looking for any either. But it's like every single accomplishment and or partnership or thing that I'm getting out of this is a first time for me. But I'm also not looking for a shortcut, and I'm not looking to follow nobody else's map. Right. Now, when you want to do things exactly how a person did it in order to get to where they at, maybe that's beneficial for you to have that map. You know what I'm saying? I look at other people's journeys through this, and looking at the heights that they ascended to and different things like that, because a lot of the time I'm looking to see what not to do. Because certain times, once people actually get successful, they might actually give their following and or fan base I said a lot of what you see is the highlight reel. And that's a fact. But sometimes when a person knows they're kind of already at the mountaintop, they'll start telling you the shit that they did that almost knocked them off the mountain.
Right. But I think you're right on that. But I also say the gift of failure, right? So it's like seeing someone at the top, right? But also having your own trials and tribulations kind of allows you to decipher, like, okay, so I know that, like, even though I'm seeing the top here, I know I need to hit A, B, C, and D in order to get to E. You know what I mean? Like you know the steps because you've already attempted things in your life, which is, again, like part of that whole thing you were talking about.
Yes, and it goes back to what I said earlier. I've seen what happens when you're scared to learn from failure. It's 100% just either resentment or just you literally throw a mental block up to not think about it. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't, and I did that, and I know that was what I did because I didn't even move on to the next thing to try and be successful in something else. I didn't encapsulate myself in something else to make me forget about it. I just said forget it. You know what I'm saying? Now in that case, you know, it was a blessed time in my life because, I mean, the next year I had my kid, and there's different things like that, which is crazy to date that back to that time because she'll be 11 this year. So that's wild. That is wild. You know what I mean? But I had different things that were able. I found new purpose, and in finding new purpose, I didn't try and go back to old things. You know what I mean? It's crazy just to think back on certain stuff, man. I've been through some things, man. I've seen a lot of people. I done seen a lot of people on their way up, and I caught a lot of people at that time on their way down, who down bad now. Yeah. And they was the gatekeepers at the time, but they were gatekeeping. They didn't pull nobody else forward. And guess what? When they fell on hard times, there was nobody to pull them forward, and they were fucked. Done.
Moving the goalposts, man.
Yep.
Moving the goalposts.
But guess what? You can only move the goalposts when a person's playing your game. Not playing the game. When you playing the goalposts set.
Exactly.
But they moved the goalposts for people who really was they folks, who was coming to them by way of knowing they had access to certain things and not trying to weasel their way through the back door or nothing, was willing to work for it. And they was like, no, this is the fucking biggest identity crisis I see in the hood with people, or some people who reach some success. At the end of the day, they feel like, yo, when people like, why is it that a stranger will support you before somebody you know does? And this has been set in my mind for a very long time. It's because the person who knows you, they can't fathom in their head how you come from what they come from and you reach this. So they'll have some wild train of thought where it's like, man, I could have did that shit. So I ain't getting it. Like they too close to it. Like they say sometimes you too far away from something, then you can't see it all the way. So you could be too close to it too. If I get too close to this computer screen right now, I cannot see what's going on. If I put my nose to the screen, I cannot see the picture. But blocking their blessings though. And now some of them, starting over. I know some people who was living the life, at least the life in which, by the standard in which it's kind of put out there now, with this unlimited earning potential, not waiting 2 weeks for a check, getting that bread on the spot, partying in Miami, partying in Atlanta, partying out the country, just by way of, and it was by way of work they put in too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they got to where they at because they was lucky. They put the work in, but when they got to a point, they pulled nobody up with them. You know what I'm saying? So when you get to a point like that and you do things in that way, the people who put you in that position, they gonna assign you a team. And that team is for the betterment of the motherfucker that put them in that position, not of you. And the moment it comes time, especially where they was put in a position that they might have wanted, you was put in a position that they might have wanted, and they got to help you sustain that.
Sir.
It's once they infiltrate and they gain your trust, they're going to sabotage you. Because they're going to feel like you shouldn't have had it anyway. Because y'all ain't built no social capital. Y'all ain't got no culture currency. Exchanged amongst y'all. Yep. They at where they at because whoever they folks is on top and had and they call them to play, and they just in the play. You know what I mean?
My experience in my little film career, right? It's crazy you said that, right? They don't even see it as any type of sabotage or any type of like negative thing at all. It's just them being in a better position to make the move that you couldn't do, and they just take it. And it's not even seen as anything negative. It's almost seen normal.
I was played out once, and the person didn't do it on purpose. I did it to myself. My current deal, past dealing that you patched me in on, was doing some work. Was doing some social media management for somebody, right? And it got to a point where I was trying to draw blood from a rock. I wasn't being given what I was asked for in order to facilitate what they were asking me to do. Because I'm managing, I'm not creating. You know what I'm saying? I can't pull something from nothing. Like, yo, you have this product. You want this product pushed. I need some things in order to, like, it was promotion at the end of the day. I need something to sensationalize. And it was a visual product. It was only with so many spins on words I could do, things like that. Yo, I got to give some people something, right? And it got to a point one day where I had a meeting with whatever role she played in it. Yeah. And she tried to get her shit off on me. Like, it was, oh, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, I'm not getting this. And maybe she was this good. Maybe she was this good at the time. Maybe she got this out of me. Because I don't want to say, because I'm thinking maybe she wasn't that good. She got this out of me by accident. And basically, I told her off. I told her everything I didn't have, everything I asked you for, and everything that I was going to do with said thing. And at the end of that, I guess argument, if she would call it that, she had a moment. I gave her the blueprint. She didn't need me after that. That was my last check for that thing. Never talked to her again. And guess what? I didn't immediately unfollow the entity. So the things that I said I needed, the person that she wanted to put in position to get it, because she didn't know me. Somebody else gave me the oop. She put somebody else in the position and I started seeing it. And I'm like, damn, she got me. She got me. Like, even if it wasn't, I don't want to give her that type of credit, though, and say that was intentional. It wasn't intentional. It was just like
I think it was coincidental.
I think it was coincidental, but I laid it out so elaborately at that time because I wanted to show her you're not talking to some fool. I still ended up being a fool in a different way. And that's another reason why it's just like, I could have just gave her some grace and just said, you know what? Maybe I'm not the guy for this right now. When it circles back, you got something else going on. At the end of the day, we didn't have no bad dealings with each other. You didn't dislike the actual product that was put out there when it was being put out there. I just needed a little more. How about we circle the wagons? Maybe another project, maybe another time. Right. But I didn't give her that grace. I let my anger get the best of me. And I exposed my hand. I exposed my hand before the cards was laid on the table. And I learned from it. At the end of the day, at that time, I lost, at a time where I could use the money. Lost something that was giving me almost 4 figures a month. I mean, it was enough to cover my rent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was enough to cover my rent and then some.
You definitely had the money to throw it out. I mean, the money was available to throw it out.
Yeah. But the thing I was asking for, product-wise was available too.
Right.
You know how I know? Because the person who had it is my friend who threw me the oop on the job.
Yeah.
I know where it's at. But I'm not putting you at that time, I wasn't putting you in a position to her to be asking me, where did I get this from?
It's funny because we were just talking about, like, it's wild to come back to this, right? Because we were just talking about the landscaping example. This is a prime example. Like, for me, in this particular project, I'm like, there's only one person that I know who can do this job, right? And that was you, right? But on the flip side, right? I had no interaction between you and the person doing the work.
Not a word.
So even still, like, being involved, like, I mean, at that point, right? I would even say the mistake would be to X the person out who had the literal hard drive with the content on it. Mm-hmm. You X me out of the equation. I'm getting third party information from another third party.
Right.
And the person that I think eventually replaced you was the person that I was talking to. So I put you in the job, right, to do it, and then I'm 2 people down,
right,
on the communication side.
Yes.
So
I think the thing that really kind of fractured me and her relationship, and maybe it seemed like at that time she was standing on her grounds, being a strong black woman, all those good things I advocate for. But she hit me with the, you don't do this unless I say so because I pay you. And I made sure I let her know, no, you don't pay me.
Yeah.
I said, I get paid by somebody else that's on your staff. You do not pay me for this. He told me to do something, I did it.
Right.
Simple and plain. But like I said, it was more of those, I could have gave her a little more grace than I did in my response. And I didn't, and it bit me in the ass. So, but it was a learning experience. And it's a good thing to have on my resume.
Yeah.
It got me something else. It got me a few other things, actually. Just by way of saying it. And guess what? I still had this guy to vouch for me.
Yeah.
Who was a part of it. So if I said I was a part of it.
Opportunities where like something like that happens and your relationship stays the same because like you understand. Like that's the other side of it, right? So like when you recommend someone, right, and you're like, okay, this person has the same standards as me, I know they'll do the job, and you can remain objective and not bring any emotions into the situation, and you can talk to both parties and figure out where it's at. It's literally the reason why this podcast still exists, the last podcast still exists, and the reason why we're still homies is because like we have the ability to remain objective.
Yes.
In things that need to be objective, and then subjective when the time comes.
Yeah, not stirring the pot.
Definitely, like personal is definitely separate. Like my personal opinion on that was on some like I'm like yo, like all right, we out like fire everybody, but like professionally I can't do that.
You can't.
Because I'm like all right, so I'm gonna keep rocking, I'm gonna finish this out, ride it out, do what I have to do, and then we're gonna swing back on another project. And here we are.
And here we are. So it was like you don't know, just I guess maintain a certain level of professionalism. I feel like anything that I choose to do, now at this point, y'all, I'm 4 episodes in. I feel like from episode, I'm a professional podcaster now. I do this because I want to.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I know it's going to be a product that I know I can at least be proud of, and I know I'm going to have a certain fan base for because guess what? I'm doing it for me. And the moment you start 100% doing something for someone else or for others, it's gonna be a failing product because the thing that drew people to it was the passion that you had when you were doing it for you. You know what I'm saying? But it becomes such a dumb thing now with how sensitive and politically correct you have to be. It's like I said, the negative spin people put on critical. It's the negative spin that people put on you saying that you're actually doing something for you and not for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's. And I understand how sometimes that could be a thing. Like, don't might want to fucking hear that. You telling the person you're in the middle of an argument, you're in a relationship, and you tell the person, man, I'm not fucking here for you. I'm here for me. And the moment it ain't good for me, I'm out.
They ain't ready for that conversation.
I'm ready for that. Listen, even if I feel that way, I know personally there is no way in hell that's ever going to land where I wanted it to land if I say it. That's the fucking eject button, yo. From the fighter cockpit, like
you have all your shit already ready to the crib.
You 50,000 feet up and hit the red button, bro. Like if that's where you going, like be sure that's where you really, like be sure you really ready to take it there before you go to those limbs, man. Going to the sports minute of the podcast, sports minute, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. Today, we got the official announcement that Tom Brady has retired. So, this is really, really sad about our reality is that some people, Denzel Washington said it before in an interview, he just said, I don't really talk to the press like that because in a lot of cases, y'all not looking to be right, y'all looking to be first. So, like, you can have a piece to a puzzle. If it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, shit, it can be a 5-piece puzzle. If you just lay it on the table, people are like, what the fuck is this? Mm-hmm. Now, in the case of what happened, so on Sunday, some of the more prominent reporters at ESPN, NFL Network, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, released that Tom Brady is retiring from the NFL, right? Didn't get that man the grace of it because they have to be first. So he didn't say anything yet. It comes out like, this dude's still deciding. He didn't make any decisions. Now, these dudes are very, very, very connected. I'm sure that when they posted that with that level of certainty, they didn't put he might retire. They said it's retiring. But it's like, it was like, damn, Tom's just like, who the fuck out of this information on me? Like, I planned on doing that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But he did it today, 2 days later. And now it's like, you know, it still had its impact, but it didn't have the impact that it could have because somebody else took his moment. It's like, it's very along the lines of what I said, giving up game that ain't yours. Man, don't take nobody else's moment, man. How big you gonna feel? Look, at the end of the day, yeah. It ain't that important to be first all the time. Nope. It ain't that important to be first all the time. Because now they had to take backlash for 2 days about something they were right about. It just was the timing. You know what I'm saying? What they say, take the temperature of the room. Mm-hmm. Like they should have took the temperature of the room. Totally miscaged them. They announced it on the day of the conference championships. One. That's probably a reason why, even if he made the decision that day and told close friends or what have you about it, he didn't want to take away from the shine of the 4 teams that are left out of the 32 teams in the NFL. That was their day. He tried to give it to them, and they wouldn't allow it to happen. But just the appreciation I just want to give for greatness, man. Like I said, we could always, I don't know why it's such a popular thing in America. I guess because it looks cool to be different, that people just hate on things that are obviously great. And he's obviously the greatest. He's obviously the most accomplished pro athlete of my lifetime. And he is retiring in a year where he is about to be the runner-up for the most valuable player in the league. He is about to be MVP runner-up this year. So now it's also him retiring. Yo, I guarantee you he was probably looking like, because a lot of people want to go out. People want to go out in the blaze of glory. What was it? Forrest Gump, when he rescued Lieutenant Dan, when he didn't want to be rescued, he wanted to die in battle. He wanted to die in battle, and he saved him. And now it was like he wanted the glory. Yep. Tom tried to give y'all the glory of retiring him for a long time now. And it's like, yo, I'm still kicking y'all ass. Y'all can't even retire me. I just got to sit down, man. I just got to sit down. So, hats off to an amazing career, greatness that spanned it from the age where I could watch sports and appreciate it on the level it needed to be appreciated on, until now being a 32-year-old man. Tom Brady is the guy. He is the guy. What they call him, Captain America, he the bull. He the bull. So shout out to the bull. And shout out to the Logical Nonsense podcast too, on randomly on their annual Nonsense Award. I was co-bull of the year for 2021. It's still fucking with me, actually. Listening to it was both enjoyable, hysterically funny, and very humbling, by the way. So shout out to Mill and Joey over there, Filthy Philly 6, and Joey over there at the Logical Nonsense podcast. But and that's a thing too. So the relationships, most of the podcasts today have just been about relationships. It's been relationship conversation adjacent. I'm not talking about I wasn't talking about, an intimate relationship. I'm talking about platonic or what have you business. But relationships are too important to be fucking them around. You know what I mean? I told you before, you never know who's watching you. You never know who's talking about you. Just try and make sure that the product that you're putting out there in the world, and I'm talking about the product, is your life. The product that you're putting out there in the world is one that you won't be mad of. Something that when people are talking about the product that you're putting out there, that hopefully is good. You know what I mean? It's never always going to be good. Like I said, people go out and hate greatness all the time. But just being, I love listening to somebody talk about me in a room that I wasn't in, unscripted and unsolicited. Had no idea. And it was just dope to hear. So
I agree. You know what's crazy? Because I've been a behind the scenes bull forever. It's crazy. People never really had this conversation. It's like, all right, you make beats, you do this, you don't rap, you don't sing. It was like, why do you make beats? Why do you produce? And it was like, because I love to see my people win, right? So when you sent me the podcast, right, I heard people on there that I worked before. I heard Sai. I'm like, oh, you sending me this because Sai is a bull of the year. Then I heard your name, and it was one of them things where I was like, why not you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like literally, I'm like, why not you?
And shout out to the other nominees because all of them were Philly guys. This is a Philly-based podcast. They shouted out Ape Gang Garcia, Bang Bang SG from uptown, and they shouted out Sai Moscow, who.
That's what I'm saying.
And one of the earlier iterations of something that we were talking about earlier, just things that failed. He wasn't necessarily a partner, but I'm talking about at the time where we were where we had an operational studio, a dude that came through early in his shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to that guy. But you never know. You never know who's talking about you, man. You never know. And you can't help it. Don't get me wrong. But make a strong enough case how you live in your life that if they was talking about you in an ill manner, another motherfucker would jump up like, no, not cuz. Like, I ain't got cuz for that. Are you sure we talking about the same person? Like that. You want your reputation to precede you in that way. Because that's what your reputation really is. Your reputation is how people speak about you in the rooms where you ain't at.
That sounds like legacy to me, though.
Yeah, that too. One and the same.
Yeah.
You know what your legacy is? Your legacy is your reputation in something once it's done. It becomes legacy at the end.
Yeah.
Reputation is what it is running. So, reputation is in the present. Legacy is when it's all done.
Yeah.
I just took my hat off to Tom Brady, literally,
legacy.
because of his legacy.
Today we can say that.
Because now it's legacy.
Yeah, now it's legacy.
You know what I'm saying? And that thing there, man, that legacy thing is crazy. The legacy thing is crazy. And the reality of it is, like I said, those trees that grow branches, I'm an extension of somebody else's legacy. I'm an extension of my parents' legacy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You know what? We were future thoughts until we weren't. Once I came out of my mother, I was her and my father's legacy. You know what I'm saying? The reputation is mine, but I'm their legacy. Because if I was out here just being a fucking hindrance on society, it reflects poorly on their legacy. Mm-hmm. Not on their reputation, because they're their own person.
Right.
It reflects poorly on their legacy if I'm out here not living in a way that is aligned in any way with my parents' reputation. And they're known for being upstanding people, man.
Absolutely.
They're known for being upstanding people. The reactions we got as a group, and I'm saying as a group, I'm talking about me and my siblings, on social media when our mom passed, was insane. Yo, it's people who's talking about your mom is the greatest mother I've ever known, and their mother's living. You know what I'm saying? That is legacy. That's legacy. That word, man, it get thrown around a lot because we like to, everything is sensationalized, so we have to talk about things on such a grand scale. The word legacy is used so much, so loosely. That ain't something, that ain't that. Like, it's a lot to even be talking about somebody's legacy. You know what I'm saying? As my brother Dirt would say, watch your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Your mouth with a W when we talking about that legacy thing, man. Yeah. But all of these things, man, but that legacy, like I said, is a build up and a stacking of all those past experiences grouped together. You know what I'm saying? And a big part of what your legacy is going to be about the rooms you put yourself in. You got to curate. You either have to build your own or you have to insert yourself into the right ecosystem. If you want to live somewhat of a prosperous life. You know what I'm saying? The rooms that I am able to go into now, a lot of the sweat equity for real, was put in by somebody else. But my reputation precedes me in that room by way of the motherfucker who busts his ass to be in that room.
Right back full circle where we started.
Right?
Yeah. The recommendation. Right? There it is.
And that's the second job you recommended me for. The other job you recommended me for, I was there for almost fucking 4 years.
Oh yeah.
And that's one thing. Yo, man, having strong references is key, one, but having anybody who ain't your mother or no blood relation or nothing, you met this person out in the social sphere, and your reputation precedes you enough with that person that they are willing to put their word on the line and say, you are this. You know what I'm saying? And the only thing you can even do is prove them right, or another person has an experience with them like, how the fuck is this the guy they was talking about?
It's wild because like it took until now for me to like really like take it in because I ignore a lot of things. I compartmentalize a lot of things in my life, right? But I'm saying you did it first. I was over here making some weird beats, whatever like that. You was like, remember, like you're the person who branched out and got me into a producer career for a little bit.
Yeah,
like that was from you. I mean, yeah, I did the work, but I'm saying like you were very much so the mouthpiece.
But at the end of
a lot of connections, brought them in, and I don't think I ever let you down in terms of
no.
people saying like, the producer.
Well, clearly you didn't let them down because even after I had fallen outs with some of them people, they still tried to contact you.
That's true. That's true.
But unfortunately, in a lot of their cases, I was the access to you. Yeah. So like this person, like, how can I find bro number?
I'm a little reclusive.
You know what I'm saying? It's what it was. Like, and I'm not that person. I'm not a nut. Like, I'm not that person. Yo, I don't really tell people, unless it's something that I know and I love you, that if they have a certain dealing with this person, it's going to end really fucked up really quickly. And I just rather spare them that. But it ain't often that even if I don't like a person, that I go out there and try and slander your image to somebody else. Because guess what? If I'm really right about you, you're going to show them anyway. You're going to show them anyway. I'm not trying to form no opinions for you. Especially about other people. Because, yo, we might not have been the thing that meshed. Y'all might be the perfect combination. It is not for me to say because I ain't have a great dealing with that person that you not going to have one. So in that same regard, I do not do it. I do not go out of my way to tarnish the image of nobody else to other people. So guess what? If you're a person that might have fucked me over, we had an unfavorable falling out, you'll be happy to know I'm not talking about you behind closed doors. At all. Maybe you're not. Maybe that's actually something that you hold on to, the fact that you think I'm talking about you behind closed doors and you get some level of, I guess, gratification or thrill out of it. But I'm here to break the news to you. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? If it ain't favorably, I'm not talking about you. If they talking about you in a way that's negative, even if I fucking agree with them, I'll leave the room before I jump into that circle and give you the satisfaction of bigging you up. Because if I really cut you off, I'm bigging you up by even talking about you. Mm-hmm. Or if you cut me off, guess what? I'm giving you that grace and that space. Hope it was worth it. I hope the real reason why we are no longer locked in is the reason that you're actually saying it is. Because guess what? Whoever you talking to and you giving it to, it's going to be the reason for them because I'm not looking to debunk it. Right. Don't care. You know what I'm saying? But I know I have an unrealistic level of confidence in self with a lot of shit. But I wear it. And because I wear that on me, usually people want me in the trenches with them. They want me in the trenches with them. I ain't one to break easily. You know what I'm saying? The things that I think it happened in life that would break me, didn't. Might have knocked me off my pivot for a second. Broke me, no. I'm here to talk about it. I am here to talk about it. But when I'm talking about not hurting that image, right? By way, not trying to hurt somebody else's image or tarnish somebody else's image. Let's get on to this, too. Let's talk about the social media thing, right? If you done all of this in the real world to build up a favorable image of yourself, when you're on social media and you can make the image of yourself anything that you want it to be, why would you choose to be a fucking clown? And I ain't talking about a comedian. I'm not talking about a comedian, man. Yo, I know so many people personally who are just a completely different person on social media. And then I'm talking about the social media, their social media syndicate, whatever, is just a clown. And they ain't that bad in real life, the actual person. And it's like, yo, do you know that image of you is going to spread way faster than your actual physical presence is? And with you, and if you really notice, that couple likes is worth that. Yo, I never understood it. Yo, you can go back on my social media as far as you want to. I've been on Twitter since 2009. I've been on Instagram since 2013, 2012. You ain't really finding no shit that's wild. Because it's still like at the end of the day, I'm not putting nothing out there I wouldn't really do or really say. I'm really, really, really standing on my word. With how I'm standing on who I am. So, but my joint is semi a reflection of me. I don't give more than I need to give on it. I think I found the perfect balance of not giving too much, but definitely not giving too little. And it has helped. I know for a fact that the different companies that reach out to me and different things through cycling and things like that aren't just doing it because I can ride a bike. Mm-hmm. They like the way I market myself. And I'm not selling you. No, what you know what? You are actually. If you choose to be on social media and post yourself and things like that, you are trying to sell people on you. But you have to be present and know that the thing that you're selling is you. You're either, it's the market. You either lessening the value or you're increasing it. It don't stay steady. You know when it'll stay steady? When it's a fucking flat line. Because you killed your credibility out here. And I see it so much, man. Yo, if you a dude who working, who taking care of your family and doing these different things, man, yo, when you from said block, you ain't got to wave the flag for that block like you in the street. You don't. Like, I'm talking about going above and beyond, too. Like, it's so many. It is so hard to build up a great reputation. Not saying very hard. It's much harder to build and maintain a reputation than it is to destroy it. Yo, I know I could post some shit right now that it wouldn't be hard to think of that can tarnish the image that I've built on said platforms for over a decade. I know for a fact. And these platforms, society has shifted so much since then, it ain't even hard to do. Like some of the things I'm saying, like you can go back and comb and I ain't really said or done nothing egregious. It's definitely some things that was said in past years that there's a different context on now. And I can't say that shit. I mean, I could say it if I wanted to, but it wouldn't do me it would bear no fruit and it would take away a lot. Just to say it. But some people want to be the rebel in that way and just do it. Or do it because they think it's going to be the thing that gets them the attention that they wanted. They had to sensationalize something. But it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Like, I want to be something, the image that I was always thinking about, and I always thought this way. You know what I mean? So it was always curtailed. I knew eventually my little sisters would be old enough to be on these platforms and they was going to see me. I didn't think about this so much, but I know it now because she's on it. My kid follows me on social media. Don't go try and follow my kid either, y'all. Relax. That's a big relax. Mm-hmm. Continue to watch Surya through my stories, or if you follow her mother through her page, like leave my kid alone. Let my kid be a kid on the internet with kids. You know what I'm saying? That was actually my first talking point. Note today was thank God I was able to have a childhood and be a kid. Do not put the burdens of your adult life on your children. And what I mean by that is don't be having the I'm stressing over the bills conversation on the phone while your kid right there and just different things like that. Don't have them trying to digest those concepts at an age where their brain actually isn't developed enough to even do it. I'm gonna keep it, I'm gonna state it that bluntly. Not them understanding it, because they can understand the words that you're saying. So they understand the words and they're gonna try and get a certain level of understanding of your feelings. And they don't have those feelings because they're not grown. You know what I'm saying? These are developing minds. I hate one of the main things about society right now and how it goes that I hate is the certain level of what they deem in freedoms that they're giving kids. It's like, yo, these kids are developing minds. You know, in the development stage, what you have to do, learn. And how do you learn? By being taught. Gotta get that under wraps, yo. We gotta get that thing kind of tacked in, man. I'm trying to see if I had anything else I wanted to give y'all, man. It's really like that, man. It's just your image like should be gold to you. You know what I'm saying? And the image is a projection of just how you choosing to live and portray yourself out here. How much is your energy worth? Shit? How much are you worth to you? And if that is a question you really got to ask yourself, you got to start working on some things internally and fundamentally to boost your value of yourself. Because if your value of you is low, trust me, your value to most is lower. Thought you should know that, man. Thought You Should Know podcast, Deeq be knowing.